hello, my name is Notepad Anon and I write games for fun. Sorry, I was slightly distracted catching up on Aerobellica. Yes, Aerobellica, something that is just awful and I hate but I can't look away from. I am compelled to look at more Aerobellica and feel miserable about it. So, hello, Calais. How are we doing today? I would like to thank Mildred the Monk, everybody. Wow, look, everybody. It's like one of those talk shows where the guest star would come out. Hi, Mildred. How you doing? You're here. Ta-da! But yes, today we're going to be going over, hello Gundam Pod. Yeah, didn't mean to click on that. Hello, we are going to be going over, Caps today. Yes, it's Caps Day today. And Caps is pain, because this is an RPG I wrote way back in yesteryear, way back in the before the land of time. And this is a game about espionage action, and poor life choices. Did I fix no, I have not fixed the actual page creation. Oh boy, let's fix that now. So, yeah, this game was supposed to be kind of like James Bond, a little bit of Bond in there, a little bit of Metal Gear Solid, kind of a combination of various different influences to just be about espionage action. You can't see me make like vague hand movements, but espionage action. I wrote this game way back in like 2021. Yeah, this is one of those older games at this point, so let's fix things up to be the way I like them. There we go. Okay, so probably everything in here has broken slightly, yes. So, we're gonna do our best to make sure that this game is as best as physically possible. And what that means is I need to go through it all and just double check things. See what needs fixing and see what doesn't need fixing. And probably realize everything needs fixing because this was an older game, and older games I've come to realize some of my older games had a very specific way of writing, and they weren't very good. There are just a lot of very oddities, mostly my insistence on using very bad font choices. So, the current name of this is, technically, if we want to be very correct, Crisis Averted, President Saved, 0014, because it's twice as cool as 007. The original name for this, Crisis Averted, President Saved, or Caps, that line came from an Asylum movie. The ones you see on Sci-Fi, the really bad ones, it came from that. And, Crisis Averted President Say was the last line like this, agent guy said. And it was the funniest fucking line to me at like 2 in the morning. Just this dead serious actor with zero emotional resonance of anything currently going on. Crisis averted. President saved. It was the best line I have ever encountered in a movie. And it stuck with me. I think that's the big thing. It stuck with me. So when the time came to make my own game, I had to give it the most appropriate name physically possible. And CAPS is kind of a great little thing. It's a great acronym. Hey, what is this? It's CAPS. Crisis Averted, President Save. Very nice, very easy to remember. But let's get into it. So, let's see. I'm going to make a note right here to rewrite. We're probably going to rewrite the preface. This is an older preface at this point, so I'm just going to rewrite it. Yeah, this is a Redux stream where I literally have to go through and just say like, hey, we're fixing all of this. Side note, formalize, because this is actually the introduction of the tick system. So we're going to need to make sure the tick system works pretty well. Rewrite rewrite this section. Rewrite this section. Pretty much I need to rewrite this entire front bit, make it a little bit named agent. Another character, they must perform a check. The character rolls their attribute plus skill plus modifier die and compares the result to the difficulty value set by the operations director. Or both parties roll their approach plus skill plus that. I'll make a call. Attribute. First. This was during a time where I would take the same thing repeatedly and just constantly just literally copy and paste certain sections and just change the names and change some of the wording around, but not really change the ideas, if that makes sense. So I wouldn't be surprised there's some very odd references. The DV is the dice roll, but dice the referee rolls in opposition to the character making the check. The game master may assign. I literally say operations director, referee, game master. Holy shit. Good Jesus, Notepad, come the fuck on. Is the defender assumed to have won? If there is no defender, the character has the highest attribute die. So effectively how this works, at its very core, is, let's say for example, we're going to be making an intermediate average check, an average check of intermediate complexity. You're going to be taking your dice from your attributes, skills, and abilities. I'm going to be taking 2d6. I'm going to roll. That's the target number, effectively. I've rolled a 6. I rolled a 2 and a 4. I rolled 6. You have to beat 6. This does mean that even the things like an insane difficult, but it's pretty simple to do, you can roll a 1 on it, and you pass it pretty easily. Just as much as you roll a fucking 20 on it, and you're going to fuck up pretty hard. The idea behind it is that you can get those kind of like insane things go on a little bit, but you can also have moments where it's a little bit like, oh, how'd you fuck this up? Being like, there's disaster. And you're going to actually probably have to write in more context. A good idea. We're always surrendering to oblivion, my friend. Despair is what drives us. Characters dice higher value than DV of the opponent. They've beaten their opponent. If they have no dice that are higher. Rewrite this fucking section, Notepad. You dumb motherfucker. You dumb motherfucker. Analytics. Why is this written this way, you goddamn cretin? Yeah, so I'm just gonna put a note. Field for come up with bullshit lore, question mark. There's no lore in this game. That's the funny thing. There is no lore. The lore is you're a part of an alphabet agency if you feel like it, and then you do things because it's more of a groundwork for it. You can kind of call this a generic system with a very, not even generic, but kind of like a very focused generic system. It's just about this one very specific idea that I had. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. An agent's analytics represent combined training, instinct, intelligence, as well as their previous careers as an operative. Let me see. We're going to the agents. An agent's analytics represent their combined training, instinct, and oh gee. Spread this out. Spend, but keep it simple. Combat, rewrite all of these. Like, this is heading 3, heading 2. So what we need to do is I'm going to put this rewrite all of these into the paragraph form. Let's rewrite all of these into the paragraph form with examples integrated into it. Maybe a 2x2, I could probably get it to a 2x2 because I'm gonna shrink the font down. That's a guaranteed. Go away. I don't need you, Ocelot. Ocelot. Maybe working on something else. Maybe play on the Martini. Play on the Martini whiskey dynamic. Because pretty much one of the ideas is every single part of the game is going to be built on the idea of it being a shaken martini or a whiskey on the rocks. Pretty much, if you're a shaken martini kind of game, that means like, oh no, we need to stop Dr. Evil, who's totally evil, you know, with on his Doom Fortress or whatever the fuck. And like, oh no, we've been captured and we're being dangled above his shark cage kind of thing. That's it, like old school James Bond supervillainy bullshit. Hard whiskey is more of like, oh no, there's a Manchurian candidate, we have to stop him. Like, it's kind of the grounding, you could say, something more fantastical, something a little bit more more groundy. Skills. Personal skills. Rework all of this shit into skill sets. From Z because they work a lot better. Yeah, I was really obsessed, mind you, with this idea of like basic skills, and then we had like personal skills. This was like my thing that I'm like, everything has to be like this. Possibly. CQC, acrobatics, athletics, throwing. Yeah, we're gonna have to like remajigger a lot of skills. This section, this is gonna be a pretty significant upkeep of the idea here, because of like this just doesn't quite. This isn't holdover from a lot of different games, so I need to kind of fix that in there. I need to integrate things differently. Hopefully a better Bond villain, most recent licensed stuff, so only spies and stealth, no A-team silly stuff. It's not really about like kicking down the door, bang, 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 bang. It's not really about that. It is about super spies and stealth and being sneaky and like, you don't realize, Goldfinger, I've already defeated you. Oh no! You know, you hit him with your laser watch kind of shit. That was kind of the idea. It wasn't really, I never really thought of A-Team, you know, when I was making this. I wouldn't be surprised that you could probably work something into it. Specialties. Let's see, like tables, notepad, let's see, maybe add yeah, because like one of the ideas is that like you're going to determine a lot about who you are based off your specialty, because your specialty was like just a variety of things that were like valuable. Like, yeah, you're an operative, you're a commando. Like, what does that mean to be a commando? It means that you are just really good at killing people. Operatives are really good. Yeah, clipboarding, you know, things like that. The intel. Yeah, like, yeah, probably I can add another one in here. Planning operations, the art of stealth. Key part of any operation is the management of the escalation of the situation. As more, see, every single mission will be referred to as an operation, with a string of operations making up the entire campaign. Wow, this is worded terribly. Wow, this is terrible. This is terrible. Resigning an operation, the operation director will need to understand the basics of how such large-scale initiatives unfold. Fold as well as all the problems I can and will. Oh, such a... let's see. The art of stealth. Key part of any operation is the management of escalation of the situation. As more things start to be suspicious and oddities occur, or the bodies start being found, the operation escalation increases. The escalation is split into 5 levels. Suspicious, alerted, alarmed, hunting, and engaged. When an operation raises an escalation level, it'll stay at the escalation level until all suspects are apprehended. Each level of escalation is a die associated with the diligence of patrols. Redo all of this. This is terrible. Let's see. Escalation is raised anytime an agent takes an action that is not considered to be normal in the situation, such as incapacitating guards, shooting out cameras, or making a ruckus in a location. Making a ruckus. Escalation is decreased if action taken to lessen the impact, such as hiding evidence, disabling guards in the security room. Every action has a reaction. Everything has a cost and time risk. Expand and that's kind of the idea there. We just need to expand it. What are we going to do tonight? Let's try to take over the world. A-Team aren't really spies. Don't worry, everyone. We're spies. Kicks down the door, guns out. Hello, Stelcal. Stelcal? Yeah, your name's Stelcal now. Hello, thank you for following. We are at 276 people following. God help us all. Let's see. Let's see. Exotic locales. Zones. New plan. We're just going to maybe overhaul. Definitely overhaul. Because the idea behind zones is very simple. Hello, bike. The concept is, hey, anytime you enter an area, it's going to have a different kind of security clearance. Hey, you're in the middle of the street. That's a free zone. No one's going to give a shit about it. You're in the lobby. Hey, generally speaking, no one's going to really care if you're in a security clearance 1 zone. It's kind of like you accidentally find yourself in the back, and you're going to be like, hey, you're not really supposed to be back here. Are you lost? Like, yeah, I need to use the bathroom. Like, oh, okay, yeah, just go around the corner. Heavy is like kind of the upper level stuff. You should be only back here if you absolutely must. That's like the offices of a bank. You should never be back there if they're doing their job correctly, unless you are supposed to be back there. Security detail, level 3 though, is very highly monitored, require multiple checkpoints to access and be a part of. Only guards are allowed to enter freely and move around. Even then, lower guards may not be allowed past certain areas. That's kind of like you're by the vault. Restricted zones. You're inside the vault. You literally cannot be inside there unless there is something. Yeah, no one should accidentally find themselves in a restricted zone. No one will ever find themselves in security clearance 4 by accident. Danger zone is you're crossing the Korean DMZ. Like that's fine. Do not enter the danger zone. Reasonable. ZDT is more like that random question, but is there any opinion on outgunned? Let me see. I might... Oh, Outgun, that new cinematic RPG. I was talking about that last night. I haven't really seen anything about I haven't really seen anything on it too much, but I might see if I can't get a hold of it and take a look at it. I've been meaning to look at Broken Compass for a while. It was made by the same guys, but there were some publishing issues there, so I'm curious. Void method? You don't need to be there anymore. Yeah, this is, let's see. Most locations security, these men and women are dedicated to hire to protect their charge, following strict security routines and monitoring for infiltration or drugs passed out in the hallway. Guards are the most obvious threat an agent faced during their time in the operation. When entering a zone of security clearance 1 or higher, the risk of coming across a guard increases. Every time an agent changes the escalation, there's a risk of a guard spotting them. This needs to be expand this concept. That's kind of a weird thing to like put in there. That sounds like it should be bigger. There sounds like we should put in more idea of like increasing. There should be more things for me to increase escalation, because that's like a main mechanic. Every single thing you do is slowly increasing escalation. Hey, you knock someone out, but you hide the body, so the escalation remains the same. But if you knock someone out and you're already at high escalation, people are going to be noticing, like, okay, something is very wrong here. You know, you've inadvertently raised the escalation to a point where people are now just completely on edge. It's like, hey, what's that? You know, what's that sound and things? Oh no. Guard patrol rules quality. Guard patrol rules the quality of the guards, current escalation die, and the die value, the amount of evidence spread. That's right around. Simply increases by a step, allowing the agent to react to the guards. Each zone only a certain number of guard patrols, depending on the importance, with certain guard patrols going from zone to zone. Again, this needs to be far deeper. I think this is kind of like one of the, if this is going to have any kind of note associated with it, it's like take the ideas that are already here and just make them deeper, because it's already here, it already works. You just gotta leave it. Yeah, like there has to be something at least a little bit more to kind of tie everything together. For the twitchy guards as well, a batch of favela gangsters are not going to be inclined to dealing with people sneaking around, so they might be soldier rank, even though if they have poor training. Each zone may have a set of security features, forcing agents to react and deal with the situation. Security feature can either raise escalation, force a guard patrol to trigger, or worse. Maybe we should... Specifics. Because the idea here is like, hey, you know, if bunkers are a location that when an alarm is tripped will be quickly shut down the limit move. It's, hey, the second escalation and the second alarm is any alarm is tripped, you can no longer access these hallways. You can no longer access these rooms because you've just been shut out. You know, it's like now you have a choke point. You have to go to a checkpoint. You have to do that. And what is a checkpoint? It's a place requiring authentication to access. Swipe a card, show some information, scan their eye. These checkpoints are often manned by guards or at least watched over by security. Just having a locked door, that's something usually like an issue. That's like camera, like CCTV. This needs to be a bigger like this needs to be a bigger idea for more quote modern games. Just the idea that like you are monitored by a CCTV camera. You are monitored by a camera wherever you go. There's going to be a camera on you. Kind of with the idea of like, hey, it's universal surveillance. You can always be seen. It's the goal. The goal of this game isn't necessarily to be in conflict, like to like pull out a gun and start shooting people. The goal of the game is to be as stealthy and get around as many problems and to enable yourself to do something. It's like, hey, we know there is a dead zone here. We cannot be seen here. Awesome. Hey, we know where the security room is. If we get the commando to go to the security room, take out the guards there, and then suddenly, hey, we're free for another 4 hours. We're effectively free, free reign for 4 hours. Shaking the martini, yeah. So, yeah, shaking martini, and on the notes. Probably I'm going to have put more notes of these because the idea is, as I was kind of saying, shaking martini is, hey, this is goofy. This is supposed to be goofy. This is, here's my shark pit. Here's laser grids. Here's some things that are silly. They are silly to deal with. They are something that's a little bit ridiculous, a little bit very high tech, but maybe a little bit weirdly retro. On the rocks, or kind of like whiskey on the rocks. I don't quite know how I want to word that yet. I'll let you all help me on with that. This is the best part about having an audience. You can just tell them to solve it. Is the idea there is, it's a lot more grounded. It's a lot more, hey, this isn't laser trip. Oh no, it's laser grids. And if you bypass my laser grid, you'll have to go past my shark pit. Not necessarily that. It's like, hey, there are 3 guys with guns there. They will shoot you if you get close to them. How do you get past them? It's a lot more grounded, but it's also a lot less, I'm gonna bring out my laser watch and laser watch my problems away. It's also like, I have a gun as well. It's kind of the difference between like again, early James Bond and Splinter Cell. Like, it's a very different, similar idea, don't get me wrong. It's both about cool guys doing cool guy things and cool guyingly, something happens. But Sam Fisher just fucking shoots you in the head and you die. While James Bond is like, I'll use Q's laser watch to solve the problem. Sorry, Goldfinger, I have defeated you. So every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Emphasize this thing. Kind of the idea that like everything you do is going to immediately provoke a response. That could be a good way. You know what? That'll be a good way of actually doing indirectly minion turns. It's like, if you do something, the world's gonna react to you immediately. Everyone takes their turn, the world acts. Everyone does the thing, the world acts. It's like, hey, that's just how it goes. Everything that leaves physical evidence behind raises their chance of being spotted and raising the escalation further. Evidence is left behind when something is not dealt with properly or hidden away. So, such as leaving behind a cracked safe, a broken camera, or a dead body. The idea of this stacks up, gradually adding the guard's overall ability to stuff in minor evidence that aren't suspicion on its own, because it looked a little harder. Objects or mementos that without proper context can lead to guards. Maybe we should actually expand this. Expand this mechanic out a lot more. You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna put a note. Predator token mechanics. Because there was this alien board game. It was Aliens. It was an alien board game. I can't remember what it was. But there were 3 factions. There was the alien, there was the, the xenomorphs, the colonial marines, and you also had the predators. It was an AVP game. And one of the big things is that the xenomorphs, they had a shit ton of reaction. They were very fast, very deadly, but they were very fragile. Anytime they actually got hit, they would explode, but they were very quick, and they could move through the vents. And one of the advantages of the Predator is that he started off with these 3 Predator tokens that allowed him to effectively, like, mask where he is. One of these was the Predator. One of them was not the Predator. 2 of them were not the Predator. So you'd be going through and be like, oh, is that the Predator? And you'd be like, no, it's not. So what I'm thinking about doing is that instead of maybe strictly having like guard patrols, like we definitely know where they are, maybe we just have like very vague ideas of where the guards might be if we follow them. Kind of like, are we trailing the guards to learn their routes? Then you're gonna know. But if you aren't trailing the guards, you have a vague idea where everyone is. Maybe something like that. So some evidence is referred to as critical evidence. Critical evidence does not increase guards' chance of finding the agent, but it immediately raises the escalation by 2 levels. This is by two levels. Critical evidence is often dead bodies left behind guns or brazen showing of the agent's activities. It also causes VIPs to be quickly ushered out or guarded heavily. If critical evidence is found during the alarmed hunting phase, it immediately raises to engage and will not fall until the mission is over. Agents. Gunning down civilians in broad daylight is not a good idea. Ability actually wear it. The 6'5" commando built like a freight train is not going to be able to pass as the 5'3" supermodel as well as the thin operative. Do we have a more detailed section on builds? Build for the characters? For the characters, kind of like maybe a few descriptors of like, hey, you really fit this, hey, you don't fit this at all. What? Why wasn't I told this before I just emptied this M240 Bravo? Wait a second, are you telling me killing people is bad? I'm like, yeah. It's kind of the idea, like, if you just, like, walk up to someone, pull a gun, and blow their fucking head off, like, yeah, you're going to immediately go to the hunting phase, because you are a goddamn psychopath. Like, yeah, it's over. Unconventional disguises work once they've been expended, meaning that pretending to be a mannequin works the first time, and after a second, it starts to break down. And unconventional disguise use the agent attribute die instead of straight disguise die. Agent save members disguise. The lower the rank falls, people can wondering why Ted the security guard went and who's this mysterious new guy wearing Ted's clothes. Unique disguises do mitigate this effect, but this does no, but one has to know the mannerisms and quirks of. Maybe we'll call it a tick. So, that's just going to be its own piece of sadness. So, I'm so sorry for you. I want to play a 6'5" super awesome manly super soldier who's super cool and awesome and badass and huge and stuff. You're not going to be able to impersonate the 5'2" man. That ain't gonna happen. However, the 5'1" little willowy operative can probably pull it off. Like, have no fear. It's me, the femboy. I can totally impersonate this woman. And be like, all right. Me like, wait, you aren't supposed to agree with me. Objective is the goal of the operation. The agent's striving to accomplish. Objective can be anything. Like covert ops and people who partake in them. More shit, notepad. Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Spy, Assassinate. Target VIP needs to be eliminated, whether by accident or well-placed shot. Contain. Secure an area and generally wrangle whatever threat may or may not be in the area. Often involves a large group of individuals threatening a location or down in one. Or a dead. Planting the evidence and leaving with a quickness. However, anyone would suspect the planted object, it's no good to anyone. Protect. The target VIP is currently under threat of being threatened during a mission. The goal is protect them and guarantee their exfiltration by the end of the assignment. Life is more important than yours. Secure. Objective is complete or rendered impossible to complete. The agent will need to exfiltrate. Exfiltration process of area and getting safely. So, yeah, we need some chase mechanics. The last resort. Now, this is where things start getting a little bit hinky-winky. Welcome to tech combat. Combat deadly dance of wits, daring, and simple smidge of luck. When 2 or more characters engage in a battle, time slows to a crawl and everyone begins counting ticks. A tick is a moment, roughly 1 second in time, where the combatants plan their actions and begin to execute. All characters begin on tick 1, unless they were ambushed, in which case they begin on tick 4. Every time the character selects an action, they must have a series of ticks pass before it resolved. The action resolves, they may pick a new action starting on that tick. Total, there are 12 ticks in a combat round. Actions can roll over into the second round. Effects and resolving at the end of the round, as well as clear indication of what 12 ticks has gone by. So if I'm stunned for 6 ticks on tick 8, I know I'll regain cold myself for tick 2, and it's a night. As well as actions can roll over to the second round. For certain actions, characters may interrupt them to halt the action early and gain a bonus to their own action. However, the character that was interrupted buys an opportunity to select a new action, but their original one is completely lost. How many ticks have gone? Types of actions in total. Dedicated, certain number of ticks that must be allocated to perform the action. Extended actions, actions that take place over a number of ticks, allowing the characters to augment rolls or assist themselves in certain situations. Easy to interrupt. Actions that take a single tick to complete. All these are often simple or do easy to accomplish. Alright. In action is decision the operator commits to perform a specific maneuver with the hope of resolving the combat encounter quickly. Rewrite this. This is fucking terrible. Commits an action. They were dice which are successful account for all dice which are the value of the opponent. I have no idea why this is here, so I'm going to try to Pinging me. Who's pinging me? No one important. Just Blue Server. Blue Server has this lovely time of pinging people randomly. Great. Oh, fuck. So, variable interruption. Use an ability or tool in the possession of the battlefield. Variable interruption die. CQC, no interruption die. Launches into a fury of punches, kicks, and grabs with the intent of disrupting the enemy and rendering them unconscious. Yeah, you can't interrupt them, but you can punch each other in the face kind of thing. So, deals 1 blunt damage to the number of successive scores. Rewrite this all fuck. Grab. Yeah, we're gonna need a rewrite. Kicking does more damage, but it takes 3 kicks. Grab it, both roll CBT. Choke out, disarm, pummel. Firearm attack. Character makes an attack with a currently held firearm. Damage is mitigated by wearing body armor or other protective gear. Do I actually even have body armor? Let's play a game. Does Notepad have body armor? Notepad has body armor all the way down here. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. Boy, oh boy. You can see where I was starting to get a little bit desperate. We could probably maybe So, adds a second firearm skill die to the roll, makes an attack with a currently held firearm. Let's add a small burst from their weapon. Deal damage equal to the number of dice which are successful. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that right now. Stop that. Stop that. Stop that now. Number of dice which are successful, within the stacking bonus die outside the range of the firearm. Roll CBT, yeah, rolled CBT. Melee weapon attack makes attack with a currently held weapon. Damage is mitigated by wearing body armor. Blunt vital stab. Doubles the successful. Rewrite this section. Because the idea is that every single melee weapon's a little bit different, so we need to actually do that. So let's see. Aim bonus die to the next firearm shot. Certain weapons have capped amount to be able to aim. Gaining a bonus die to a melee attack or CQC attempt. Interruption applies if they are attacked from a distance. Interruption applies if they are attacked from... Retakes will have a D8 interruption die. D8 can be applied to any action. Verify this. Getting a bonus die if they're behind cover of any and all attacks directed at them from by firearms. This is terrible. This is terrible. This is terrible. Have a cover system. Have a cover system. Run for it. Goes all out sprint. Every tick they move to SD in any direction. We're gonna rewrite after rewrite after SD changes. Simple action. Change position. Standing, crouching, prone. Hold into cover. Rewrite cover. Maneuver. So, vital signs green. Contrary to popular belief, this should be earlier. Should be earlier. Should be earlier. This section needs to... Section needs to be clarified and completely rewritten. It needs to be completely rewritten, because if you're noticing a trend here, it's just rewrite everything. Space distance. Give me 1 second, I need to, I just need to remind myself of what's, I'm gonna post this for myself just so I know anytime I look at this what I have to do. Combat of a sneakier variety. Expand. This needs to be expanded out. I'm gonna tell you that right now. There will come time to deal with target stealthy manner. Mm. From stealth grants D10 bonus die to hit and is almost all immediately lethal unless equipment. Non-lethal agent should often rely on stealth takedown to avoid bloodshed as guard or target immediately reduces 0 blunt trauma. Oh no. Yeah, Aces evolved into ZDT effectively, so ZDT is kind of the Aces we never received. So that's just something I gotta kind of make a note of. If I ever do get around to making Aces. That'll be fun. Aces will never happen though, because again ZDT exists and that kind of fills the same thing, you could say. Let's see. Firearms. Yeah, man, do blunt damage. And each firearm is firing tarp and magazine capacity. Use firing mode, bit of the magazine when it's empty. Shoot to reload the gun. Takes the... Yeah, I was really obsessed with like having very different guns all around. That was like a thing I was doing. Like, oh, I'll just use, I can use the same. I have a coach gun in here for some fucking reason. Because I literally had one like gun chart for everything. I'm like, I can just use everything. Fucking G. But I am legitimately the smartest person alive. My brain is massive. And I never need to change anything, says stupid moron. Who does stupid moron things? Let's see, each armor difficulty is to increase the tick duration. Guard patrols also gain a bonus to detect an agent while they wear armor. Yeah, reinforced clothing is probably the best. We could probably maybe expand this, maybe not. Gadget. Be more particular with the gadget grade. Martini and on the rocks will be handy here. This is just one of those things where I pretty much need to rewrite the entire section. Where I need to be very specific with how I want to do them. Harrison, they receive nothing during boss operation. Quite rapid. The agents are permitted to do one of the following: increase skill by 1 die level. Choose a perk from any specialty. They choose a perk from their specialty because obviously they aren't very good at it. Operation Director. It's a elite squad of morons. They infiltrate terrorist hideouts and thwart international agencies of evil, trying to spread evil and terror. Best word for an episodic method of play rather than long-form play. Different locales and different areas to explore and overcome rather than dealing with a single area too easily. Not saying characters can't stay in a single city, but they'll most likely explore dozens of locations around that city. This is Person of Interest, and Person of Interest is a really good show, and I really enjoy Person of Interest. Because it was a fun show. Oh my god, it's literally me! Oh my god! It's me, everybody! What, did you think that I wasn't going to put me in this game? Of course, every game I make is actually just about me. Hey, what are you doing now? We're just going through and kind of fixing up caps a little bit. We fix. Yell at Luca for solo play stuff. Work for every specialty and creation, giving them more options to play with as they go around their missions. Well, it doesn't sound like a lot. Is there more? The answer is no. It's upside. Outside, being an individual with less actions being taken means the escalation does not rise as quickly. One just has to find one for themselves. Arguably, a solo agent experience is probably more reminiscent of traditional espionage media, while sort of single-person stop international criminals and horrible law. It's agency mode. Agency mode feels like it should be a. We're going to like maybe expand or cut agency mode. Because the concept of agency mode, the basic concept of an agency mode is effectively you have a set of agents, like each player is playing an agency and you're going up against each other's missions with your own little set of agents. And that's kind of the entire idea. It's a little bit wonky, and I might like expand it, I might cut it. I really don't know what I want to do with this. Because it's a cool idea, I just don't think I really spent the amount of time I think I would need with it. Player takes the role of operation director as the agent attempt to thwart or hinder their efforts. This can be used as a solo agent method or a squad. Yeah, this is kind of the idea, is pretty much it's like a rotating GM system where it's, hey, let's say there's 4 players. Everyone has their own agency and squad, and every week someone is the GM for the new campaign, for the new mission being run for effectively enemy agents. That's kind of the idea. Third party or other player double check the current operation direction operation, make sure it's not a beat grinder, but ultimately the group is working together just as much as they are opposing one another. There are no winners, only survivors. Yeah, that's one of those things like, you cut agency, you will have to make it a sister game. The idea of managing your secret agency and being able to put resources to agents sounds neat. Yeah, because like the entire idea of it was effectively every player is managing their own group of individualized agents, where, hey, the KGB is doing an operation against the US. The USA player is the operations director. However, the other 3 players who are playing EYE, the Orimbe, security force, are playing KGB agents doing the mission. You are incentivized to do this. You're incentivized to kind of play fair, because then you're going to have to go up against it. You don't want everyone to get pissed off at you. That would be kind of the idea there. It's like, the idea is cool. How does it work is a very different idea. It's a very different concept. And that seems to have some sort of untouchable thing to many, a bizarre and wacky franchise that owes a lot to espionage strips and ideals. All being its complete saying, welcome to Metal Gear Solid. Well, technically I should say Metal Gear. Welcome to Metal Gear. Gear, a series of fundamentally impossible to explain, as does BioVire's superpower, one man's determination to eat anything on the ground. Using capturing an MGS campaign is perfectly within reason. The ideal situation would be using solo agent mode, run a game, the quirky boss squad's early adventures, then they are fully within their rights to do such. Because effectively, that's what you would be playing in this game. You could either try to play the Snake game, or you would be playing as the quirky boss squad. You are playing the squad of, you're playing the Winds of Fury and shit like that. That's what you're playing. Individual agents are usually augmented to some degree, whether willingly or not. As an agency, one of the many clandestine organizations, some renegade mercenary outfits, special given tool and ability to make a regular man to a Superman. Regular from a man to a Superman, every augment is treated as a gadget with limited uses. Use it or augments. However, some are more obvious than others. Most of stealth-oriented missions will require the use of more stealth-oriented operatives. 4 main types of augmentation. Cybernetics. Cool. Integrated radio interruption interface. Nanomachines. Yeah, hardened dermal skin. The automatic defibrillator shock system. Biotech. Arachnid developments. You have the parasite. Yeah. Technically, you can develop psychic powers. That's one of those things, like, I'll need to... I should really update this section. But yeah. Technically, you got a bunch of these, like... there is a non-zero chance that a lot of this will actually be put up here in, like, a section with gadgets and stuff, being like, hey, if you want to do a more Martini game, this is... So I think the ideas are simple enough. This is the thing, like, the ideas behind this are simple enough to do. There's just a lot to do. And combat's gonna get slightly reworked, and that's in turn going to make tick combat kind of more of a thing. That's gonna be the difficult part. Tick combat has always been kind of the big issue. Once that's fixed, or at least in a better place, then I'm feeling a lot better about things. And I like it when I feel better about things, because it's not on fire. Things are not on fire. I am winning. I am in an advantageous position. But that's pretty much all I had planned today, because that's kind of that's all I really do with these. I just kind of go through and say, like, hey, this is broken. Hey, this isn't broken. So I will have to slowly and steadily. As you can see, there's a few things. Give me 1 second. I should mark the Elona game properly. The Elona game is effectively done. The Elona game is effectively done. I'm gonna need to maybe do some like last minute changes and fixes to it. But generally speaking, it's done. I should be okay with it. But yeah, no, most things are set up pretty well at this point. There's a few things that I need to do. You can do solo mode playing MGS1, the boss squad stopping your infiltrator defending a place like Cobra Unit MG3, or manage your agency like base management in MGS5. Sorry, we're playing Peace Walker right now, Spartan. Sorry, Spartan, sing fucking Paz's theme right now, god damn it. You don't have your full motion video, fuck. The fact that Paz literally has like an entire theme dedicated to, written by Kaz, which is even funnier, by the way. Because remember, this is the most important thing about Metal Gear Solid that you're gonna learn today, everyone. So, we all know Paz. Right, we know Paz, MGS. Paz's life is suffering. Paz Ortega, literally every single piece of existence of this girl's life sucks. But Paz in Peace Walker was an incredibly important character. She was very important, she was very competent. She has an entire song, mind you, that she that she made to just inspire the troops of Militares Sans Frontieres, which is one of those just goofy ass moments you realize that he's just like, yeah, she has like this full song called Love Deterrence. However, it is literally canon that the song called Love Deterrence, who is sang by her, was written by Cass. By like this ultra badass, like super serious guy. He's like, let me write this Japanese pop song for you because you're my favorite. Good times, everybody. Good times. That's one of those like pieces of bullshit lore that you must always know about Metal Gear Solid. Again, it wouldn't necessarily be MGS5. I would say it'd be more like Peace Walker. Or if we really want to get esoteric, we could do Metal Gear Solid. We could do Metal Gear Solid Acid. Yeah, you want some like extreme bullshit? We could get into Acid, which is a card game. God, can you even play Acid anymore? I don't think you can. This was a PSP game. God, it was from 2005. Do you like the way it looks? How fucking bizarre this game is? Yeah, welcome to Metal Gear Ass. People always talk about like, oh, there's Metal Gear 1, Metal Gear 2, Metal Gear, you know, they always talk about like the basic games. They never talk about Metal Gear Acid because nobody talks about Metal Gear Acid. Snake is the only Acid 2 Snake is the only Snake to have normal friends. Yeah, like Metal Gear Solid Acid. I don't think any of this is canon anymore, but it's all fucking weird. I remember that. I never played it, but I watched a full playthrough of it once. But let's see. Turn-based collectible card tactical RPG developed by Konami. Just say that for you. Like, turn-based collectible card tactical RPG. Because God hates you. And Metal Gear's like there was Acid 2. Was that also a? Yeah, it's an alternate continuity. Comes with a PSP add-on called Solid Eye, which folding cardboard box with specialized lenses to fit over the PSP screen, creating a stereoscopic image. Man, I love weird shit. I don't even think you can really... Yeah, I don't think you can actually even buy... Can you even play Acid? Like MGS Acid? Can I buy MGS Acid at all? I don't think you actually can. I think you actually have to emulate it. MGS Acid. Is it on PC or something? No, I don't literally think... I think, like... Yeah, it's physical copy, but if you do... let's see. You could play Peace Walker and Portable Ops, you know, Acid 1 and 2. We could play it on a PSP fucking emulator. Have no fear, everybody. We can play it on an emulator if we want. So so you just need Metal Gear for Game Boy to puzzle everything in yourself. I mean, you can emulate it with canon fucking Metal Gear's the walkiest timeline ever. It's the worst part is Acid is canon. That's the funny part. It's just an alternate continuity. Yeah, no, the PSP era was such a bizarre time because, God, what was that? You know what game you're gonna stream, Lamau. I have a few ideas. I don't think I can formally actually stream certain games because that's a no-no. But there is, what was that one? It was Star Wars Battlefront Rogue Squadron. That's it. This was the PSP Battlefront game. The PSP Battlefront game. I played the shit out of this game because it was fucking amazing. This game was a blast. It kind of handled like ass, but it was like, yeah, it's on a fucking PSP, not like the super powerful, not the super duper ultra powerful PS2. But like the Rogue Squadron thing that was kind of interesting. There are three things interesting with this game. I remember this very, very distinctly. Is you could play any race. Actually, you could play a Mon Calamari in this game. Which, fun fact, if I ever get the right to play a Mon fucking Calamari, I'm gonna play a Mon Cala-fucking-Mari. I think Mon Calamari are cool. But you had to choose like like this. This was like one of the big ideas. Is that you chose your perks, you chose all your equipment, but you could always cheese it, and there was never not a reason for you to have an auto rifle and a fucking rocket launcher. I remember that. There was no reason you should always have a rocket launcher because it was the only AT weapon in the game. I remember it looked really good too, like for relatively speaking. So you could stream emulated games, it's just a Nintendo, exactly. I don't want to get I don't want to get my legs broken by association by Nintendo. Well, the next non-devs thing we're going to be doing is going to be Enchanted Lands, which I wonder, do I have Enchanted Lands on this? Let's see. Let's see if I have everything in place. So this is a French game. This is a French RPG called Mega 4. This is a cursed game. Everything about it looks weird and cursed, and I hate it, and I need to learn more about it. We're not doing that one. I have learned to dislike Not the End by association, because, fun fact, these were the guys originally behind the Cowboy Bebop RPG. Mana Project, and this is called GDR Fumble. GDR Fumble fumbled the bag and didn't want to do it anymore for good fucking reasons. So what happened was they went with a very, like, Mana Project decided to do their own thing, but apparently that company's kind of a shit show. We've got a Spanish RPG, actually. In English, yeah. This is actually a Spanish RPG. Vigil Escuela Pulpa! Dark Eye, obviously. This is one of the games I'm gonna go, like, one of the games I want to translate. Which, this is gonna be our next big plan. This is a Russian RPG. It's not a very long Russian RPG, but there's a lot of books to it that I need to kind of go through. Not a PDF, that's a PNG, isn't it? That's a JPEG. Of course it's a JPEG. Because we've got the bestiary. Yeah, you like Amazon, like, I know that says Amazon. But yeah, this is some old school. We're dealing with some old school Kino o'clock here. Yeah, this is an oldie at this point. Looks very weird. I believe we can actually select everything with it, which is very handy, by the way. But yeah, now, the interesting thing here is right here, 1997. This is a Russian game. This is important. This is a Russian game. But there's a very important event that happened in 1997, for those who don't know, and that was the fall of the Soviet Union, technically. This game came out, like, right after the fall of the Soviet Union. And there's another game. There's another game. This is called, let me see if I can find that one, because they are all vaguely the same, by the way. Let me see, is this the correct? Let me see if this is the correct one, because they all have similar names. There were these two RPGs that came out, like, right next to each other. Yeah, this is it. This has to be it. So I'm gonna do my best to explain this, because it's in complete nonsense. Like the way it's formatted, it's a complete nonsense. I believe this is the correct one. Please, that's a character. These are the two. These are the characters. So this game, explain, like, oh, what the fuck is going on with this? I'm like, what the fuck is this? Is all crazy communist language. All crazy communist. Is like one of these two games, I can't remember which one, is effectively the first Soviet RPG, and one is the first Russian Federation RPG. Because, yeah, there were two. Yeah, this is Enchanted Lands, I think. Oh boy, this is Enchanted Lands. So this has to be, I believe this is the core. All of them were, like, slightly. They were two games that came out very close to one another. The issue was they came out very close to one another, and I'm trying to open up, like, the right one. They came out very close to one another, but they were very different beasts, if that makes sense. They're very different games. Very different ideas behind them, very different concepts. But they were the two first Soviet RPGs, two first Russian RPGs. That's why I say there are technically two Russian RPGs that are the first Russian RPG. I can call for Manly for assistance to this one. I do have him on speed dial. I do have him on speed dial, which I will probably have him at least read over everything after I'm done. Neither of them are very long. It's just going to be a different process than I usually do, because it's not going to be in Japanese, it's going to be in Russian. And unironically, there are fewer Russian resources than Japanese resources because everyone hates the Russians. You have Manly locked in your dungeon. We all know. You can admit it. Don't worry. As I was telling people earlier, you know, all I need to do is get bigger. We are very close to 2,000. Here's one thing I did notice. It's this is a funny more than anything. I don't know if any of you noticed, but we hit 1,725, 27 at this point, subscribers. We are effectively 275 people away from me posting my feet pics, which I find to be very funny. Which I find to be incredibly hilarious. But one thing about this, I thought it was I just kind of thought it was an amusing thought that there's a non-zero chance we hit 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I'm very interested in that. So I'm gonna sabotage all that by writing quick everyone unsubscribe. No, no! Don't you fucking dare! Don't you fucking dare, bitch! Let's see. I need to do some more things with dungeon tactics, because I just want to do some more things with that eventually. We've got a lot of things down here, but yeah, no, we're doing pretty all right when it comes to what's on the list. The next game on the list after Caps, because like my estimation is that Caps is going to take about a week and a half to do. So I'm going to get a hold of the next commissioner at the end of the week. I'm going to say, hey, what's up? How are we doing? Here's the proposition. Here's how we're going to be doing things. Are you ready? And hopefully that goes through. It was good knowing you. It's not an Osprey War game that does the whole Supernatural World War I game better than the other game you got, than that other game you covered. It happens. God, what was that one? I know what you're talking about too. But yeah, there's a few. Never Going Home is one of those games I really, really want to like. I really want to like Never Going Home, but I can't get into it. I don't like the system. I don't think the setting is not as interesting as they like to say it is. I think that's the part that kind of like sours me on it. It's not as interesting as it would like to believe it is. It's a very interesting looking game, but it's not a very deep game or actually really like, oh boy, this is interesting. That's kind of the issue there. I do actually have 2 Osprey games kind of set up because Osprey RPGs really interest me. Because I want to learn more about them. I really actually do. This is Heirs to Heresy, which fun fact, this was actually a very big inspiration for And Toward the Dawn. This was a very big inspiration. I want to do this one. Crescendo of Violence is also in that one. Very unique games. Very unique ones. By the same guy as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they use the same same system, generally speaking. But I am curious about them because they're usually not very big and they usually are pretty basic, all things considering. But basic isn't bad. A war transformed on the Doggerland front. Huh. I've seen that. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Oh, it's pre-ordering. I'll have to take a look into that. I'll have to take a look because, like, while we're here, while we're here, everybody, I may as well we may as well take a look because, like, they've got a lot of things that they do, which I always think is interesting when it comes to Osprey. Is they actually have a lot of games. I like Jackals. I like Jackals a lot. Grand Macasimo is what I want to take a look at. Sigil and Shadow, like, my biggest complaint with Sigil and Shadow was that it didn't really know what it wanted to be. Luckily, Ari Davis was like shifting to do like, we're gonna put out more like zines and stuff to support the game, but a lot of the real life issues seem to affect him on that front. So didn't like Righteous Blood and Ruthless Blade. Did not enjoy that game. Did not like the idea of it. I didn't like the concept of it. But here's the thing. I don't think it was bad because it was what it was, or it was because it was Osprey. I think it was bad because Jeremy Bai had too much influence on it. That was my thing. I think it was Jeremy Bai is incompetent and can't be trusted. There was Dark Places. Never really seen much on that one. Kind of seems interesting to me at least, so I might look into that. Romance of the Perilous Land. I believe I have this game somewhere. Paleomythics in another case. But yeah, I want to see more Osprey role-playing games because I find them they're an interesting they're a different world. Jeremy Bai. I'm going to show you who Jeremy Bai is because I find Jeremy Bai to be very funny. This is Jeremy Deathblade Bai. This is very important that you always remember that he is Jeremy Deathblade Bai. Because he got really into wuxia and xianjia. He's like one of the big translators for it. Like that's his thing, is translation of various things. For like wuxia and xianjia and things like that. And the thing is, I'm never gonna bash you for, hey, good job for translating stuff or anything like that. Cool. You know what? I'm not gonna bash you for that. That's something you did. You're clearly doing what you love. The issue I had with Righteous Blood and Ruthless Blades was that it felt like you weren't really your character. You were a combination of whatever Deathblade liked. And that really didn't sell it to me as much. And I wasn't as interested in it rather than Heroes of Ogre Gate, which gives you a lot of options and a lot of toys to play with, even though arguably there's a little bit too many of them to kind of overwhelm you, and some of them are just better than others. But I did enjoy that fact a lot more. Dang, Deathblade. Oh god. A lot of translation work of relatively obscure stuff. Like wuxia and like xianjia, they have a really big audience. That's the weird thing. There's a huge audience for this shit. I have no idea why, but there is. So it's like, I'm not like... he literally went to China to learn how to translate things better. Like, I'm never gonna bash him for that. I'm gonna bash him for writing a bad game. That's what I'm gonna bash you about. I'm gonna bash you for your dog shit taste in games. Let's see, what else do we have in the works? Oh yeah, for context, It's not like I'm not gonna do any more Japanese stuff. We've got a few Japanese games kind of in the pipeline to Dewong. It just takes time to Dewong, and because we've got Fragile Fragments, Soul Keepers, which Soul Keepers is just funny for all of the wrong reasons. This one won't be too complicated to do because there's just a lot of it. That's one of the issues. Just a lot of the little stuff that I'm gonna have to go through and be just right about. This is by the guy who did Summonscape, actually. It's by the same guy, Summonscape, and a couple other. I don't believe he did I don't think he did. Fuck, what's it called? I'm having a stroke. I can't remember. He didn't do not Elona. Yours? No. What's that fucking game called? What's that fucking game called? I am having a stroke. Somebody send help. It's so over, boys. My brain is potatoes, and I'm gonna find it, and fucking Silvervine Publishing, Silvervine Translation. Tell me, Silvervine, TTRPG. Tell me more. Publishing. Floria. They did Floria. It's not by Floria, but it's similar to it. There's Summonscape. We went over Zombie Line, but I've never formally made a video about Zombie Line because it was kind of a jank translation, to be honest, but I know about it. By him, seems interesting enough. We've also got these two. World's End Journey, I kind of want to go over. I believe this isn't even the full version. I think this is like the this is like the very basic version. I think it looks kind of interesting, so I'd be curious to what it actually is. This one's about giant tank mechs, so I'm like, well. Then I kind of look deeper into it. I'm like, all right, humans, magic humans, Oni. I'm like, all right, rat pit. It's Rat Boy and his rat wife. Oh, all right. Brain in jar. I'm like, all right, I gotta figure out what the fuck's going on with this. Giant robots are involved. That's all I know. Rats. I know you didn't like that much Floria. Floria was flawed because I kind of explained this in the video. Floria had some translation issues. That was my thing. Floria had translation issues, or it was really poor writing, and it was just kind of, there was a lot of gimmicks in Floria that didn't really add up to much, and it was very. You could be good at the game or you could be bad at the game, not because of what you rolled or what you did, but because you drew things in the right way and your plan didn't get completely sabotaged. And the fact that you had to hurt yourself to cast a lot of your spells, which made it like, why bother doing any of it? It was a very strange game. Yeah, I have a few Dewong projects that I would want to go over. They just take time, and that's kind of the issue there. I do have an October case set up. I have Old Gods of Appalachia, ECU, A-State. I've got a few games for October. I'm kind of excited for the October cases, which is going to be next month, by the way. Fun fact. Already October, guys. It's fucking nuts. Let's see. There's a few other cases. I have the entirety of the Unexpected Case of Middle-earth role-playing set up and ready to go. That's good. Most of the Riddle of Steel successors are ready to go. I might put Riddle of Steel in there. I might not. We've got a few oldies. I need a few more oldies because oldies games are fun. I can do the Stone Age game. That's very easy to do. If the Stone Age game, how is Old Gods? Haven't gone over it yet, but it's Monty Cook and it's very expensive. So my opinion is already not very high, but I will give it a shot. That's all you can really do. But yeah, no, the Ancient Case of Stone Age, these games might get just put in different places. I feel like I need one more, but I can kind of shift them around to different places as well. It's kind of in that one weird. And then there's a couple games that I've legitimately no idea where to put that just are kind of in weird. Like, where the fuck do I put like this? Where the fuck do you put Curse Brand Chronicles? Where do you put this game? Nowhere. You put it nowhere because it's a weird game. I don't know anything about it and I want to know more. There's also the Volcano, the steampunk role-playing game Volcania. I want to go over this game because I'm very fascinated by it. Because it looks really nice. I like the way it looks. It just looks also very true. We got real, like, all I'm saying is we got some like real Mexican representation coming on here. I'm interested. It was like, oh, we're steampunk, but we're like volcano punk too. I'm like, what the fuck is volcano punk? I'm like, alright, I'm in. Color me interested. This one is the one directly inspired by League of Legends. That's just one of those terrifying things we must all note. Is what's your game inspired by? League of Legends. Death. I do eventually need to. I might do a one-off. Just because I hate all of you and I want every single one of you to suffer. We can do the new official My Little Pony role-playing game powered by Essence 20. Yeah, this exists. This is another one that exists, and it's a very it's false. This isn't real. This is not a real game. I refuse to believe this is a real game made for children, but I don't know. And the more you think that it's for children, the worse it gets. So that's kind of just one of those things where I'm like, I'm morbidly curious of going over it. I'm like, it can't be that bad, right? It can't be that bad. Da, 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 da. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where you just hear the deafening roar of the wait a moment. In theory, we could do in theory, mind you, we could do the Wonderful World of The Curious Case of Degeneracy 2. We can do this. I have no idea why in God's holy name you would ever want to do this, because this is just a really bad idea in multiple ways, because it's by Postmortem Studios. Like, if you play would just go ching chang chong with yeah, you get used to it. Sorry, everybody. Let's see. Do we have any other fun and exciting games? Oh yeah, I have an entire zombie case set up. I am ready to. I know we're doing a double feature on October for like horror and zombie stuff, because zombie stuff is very fascinating to me, because it's how do you make zombies interesting? That is always the question you must ask. How can you make zombies interesting? But I'll also have finally a good justification to go over red markets. because this is one of those various weird... This is just one of those very weird games that I think is going to be a lot more interesting to read the... It's going to be a lot more interesting to read about the developers than anything, and I just realized this game is 500 pages long. This game is 500 pages fucking long. Holy shit. Why is it 500 pages long? Oh god, what have I done? Oh Lord Almighty. Yeah. You see why I'm interested in it. Wait, what is this? This is Red Markets. It's a game about let me zoom all the way back up. It's a zombie game, but it's a game of economic horror. Cuz the entire idea is that like you're guys who make money by like running things across the zombie apocalypse. That's the... Do you get it? Do you get it? That's the funny part. It's like, oh goodness. Oh goodness. Technically, we can also go over, if we really want, we can go over, we can put in the next Japanese case, Armed Girl Princess Wing. Because Princess Wing is done. Yes, Princess Wing has been fully translated, in fact, which is very interesting, and I've been waiting on the Princess Wing translation for a while, and I'm very happy that it's done. Because I am always interested in more Japanese games, because Japan has some very interesting games, and I would like to learn more about them. They're just very, very hard to get a hold of, because they're all in fucking Japanese! People usually don't tend to translate them. The only other one I have is the Log Horizon RPG currently. So, do you like Log Horizon? Because we've got that. We can play Dwarf, Half-Elf, Cat, Wolf. Yeah, this one just doesn't look very good, but this is the official one. So... yeah, so we having two in there is going to be kind of nice. We could probably... There's probably another one. Economic horror? You mean the current U.S. economy? It's funny because it's sad. Are there any that's similar to Sword World Ryutama? They're so refreshing compared to Western TRPGs. I now realize that the weak statement this is. Well, here's the thing. Ryutama is a very unique game made for a very particular reason. Like, that's one thing about Ryutama you have to know. Is that Ryutama was made for that guy's, effectively, his restaurant. Mondraco. I wonder if I can find Mondraco. Monodraco. This is Monodraco. This is what they do. This is how they do things. If you want to actually learn about Draco, this is what you do. This is... the guy who runs this store is the creator of Ryutama. That's one of the big things. He was pretty much the first and only. He was one of the first guys to open up a board game cap. He created Monodraco for TRPGs, and he created, mind you, this is an important thing. He created it for right here. This is the guy right here. He created it for people who are trying to learn it for the first time, who may never have. So it's the creation of Ryutama was a series of events led for the purpose of we need to make it a very specific idea. Sword World is also kind of that idea where it's kind of a built-up number of factors that lead to it, but there are quite a few different... How do I want to word it? There are quite a few different games that are very similar to it. If you like Sword World, Goblin Slayer is effectively Sword World. I would say I would say that Goblin Slayer is easier to get into than Sword World, and the attrition mechanics fucking genius. It's just it's a different beast, but it's the exact same game, but it's a very different beast by presentation. But then you get things like Konosuba, the Konosuba RPG, which isn't as great. I don't like the Konosuba RPG as much, even though it shares a lot of similarities. I don't like it as much because they don't really lead into the Konosuba aspect as much as I was hoping they would. Yeah, you can see all the people who work here. But if you want a game that's similar, Log Horizon kind of bears some similarity there. A lot of JRPGs, a lot of them are 2d6. Like, that's something that I don't think some people quite get sometimes, is like, a lot of games are 2d6 in Japan. You kind of see, this is Booth. A lot of them are 2d6 or 2d6 based in some way. Oh yeah, here's the new Muv-Luv. Here's the new Muv-Luv expansion, God bless him. This is the other mecha game that I've been following, but a lot of 2d6 games. I try to bring as many people as I can, try to introduce as many people as I can. But a lot of things are also Call of Cthulhu. Just a lot of these are Call of Cthulhu expansions, or Call of Cthulhu its scenarios. That's a really big idea. It's Call of Cthulhu fucking expansions. There's a lot of Call of Cthulhu scenarios. Shut up, Deep. Play by letter. All right, new RPG, everybody. Is it a play by letter game? I think it's a play by letter game. Yep, it's totally just going to be a play by letter game, isn't it? Yep, cause I'm a genius. Dice Row Pal, that spells that keys game by letter. Uses letters instead of dice. Do not be afraid. They are as pretentious as the rest of us. Don't worry. Everyone's pretentious. Let's click on this one. What could possibly go wrong here? X2U one-on-one. I believe this is... Tell me more about TRPGs. They're all going to be Call of Cthulhu scenarios. They always fucking are. Time to expand out COC. The Japanese love their COC. Wizards of the Coast has not been able to be it there. The true BRP. It's incredibly popular there for a few reasons. And probably next week. I will do there's going to be a two-parter next week. And the two-parter is going to be, very simply put, I might do it either next week or the week after, is going to be kind of a two-parter based on the idea of doing my full JTRPG explanation thing. Because I get it enough times, I'm like, I'm going to make a video about this, just explaining effectively a lecture of like, this is the reason why things are the way they are. And then lead it into that Thursday being... Let's try to make a game from another place. Let's think of games from other places that would be interesting. Because Japanese role-playing games had a very different trajectory from ours. That's kind of a weird thing to say, like, what do you mean trajectory? They had a very different introduction, and they had a very different way of approaching certain things. To them, Call of Cthulhu was the first big one that made a lot of things. Like, you even see fucking this Mountains of Madness campaign scenario book. This in particular, this scenario with these characters, They are getting an anime adaptation that's been like in production hell for a few years. But these guys actually raised money and are getting an anime adaptation because this book, this scenario that would, this, campaign that these guys run was that popular. It was insanely popular with people that people were like, I want to see this animated. You gotta see all the characters, their stats and stuff. They really enjoyed it. They thought it was great. They wanted to see more of it. Let me make a wild guess, and this is going to be a Call of Cthulhu. No joke, yeah. It was let me see, Call of Cthulhu, what if I can find this? It was right there, Mountains of Madness anime. Climb the Mountain, crowdfunded Naked Peak, Climb the Mountains of Madness pilot anime. It's actually debuted already, as you kind of see here. This was literally based off a scenario by the guy who wrote the replay effectively. You kind of see all this. That's the entire idea. It was a Call of Cthulhu session that he wrote the replay for, published the replay, and made and people fucking loved it. Crowdfunded, they got the funds, they're gonna put it out. You can also say there's a few yeah, there are a bunch of like scenario stuff that's going on here. Yeah, it's, if I remember correctly, it was Fate has some ties to TRPG. Konosuba has some ties. Goblin Slayer is unashamedly tied to TRPGs. Unashamedly. To the point where you even see in the you see in the manga, the anime, that it uses 5e character sheets. Apparently they were just, every character in Goblin Slayer is actually a Sword World character. That is apparently what occurred. Every single one of them was a Sword World like character as an NPC. That was the joke. All of them are NPCs. And one of the ideas was the hero and the two other characters, there's like these 3 girl heroes. They were the actual players. The guy who wrote Goblin Slayer, I believe, was one of them. I can't remember which one. Lotus War just started as How to Play D&D from the magazine. Well, here's the thing with Lotus War. This is the interesting thing. Is the guys playing it, he wanted to effectively write a replay for it, because he wanted more people to play, and he wanted more people to do things, and he enjoyed the story he was telling. Deedlit, actually. Anytime you see it, Deedlit was the one who wrote it. That's why she's the main character and everything, fun fact. He liked the game, he wrote the first replay, he published the replay in the magazine, and it was incredibly popular, so he got more people on board to be like, hey, you should play D&D, you should play D&D, you should play D&D. The problem was, D&D was fucking expensive. It was really expensive, so no one really, it's very hard to get a bunch of teenagers to invest in a game that might have been effectively $100, roughly speaking. Not 100 yen, $100 in USD. So a lot of people you couldn't really justify doing that, which led directly to the creation of Sword World. Which, if you pay attention to some of the things in Lotus War, a lot of Lotus War is actually just Sword World. A lot of things, when they transferred over, it became the original base setting of Sword World. They even talk about sword fragments and things, which they use in Lotus War. That's one of the main currencies, is fragments. The more you know. That's just one of those little weird, interesting notes that I always find to be very interesting. And that's what kind of that video is going to be. That video is going to be me explaining, hey, this is how it is. Here are the 3 big ones that kind of influenced it. Fast forward to now. Here's kind of the situation that I've observed. Here's the situation that you can kind of see. Things are really hard on the replay culture because replay culture is very, very cool and people really enjoy the replay culture. And you make a lot, people are very enthusiastic about the replay, about cultures and things like that when it comes to, JRPGs and stuff, because that's way more accepted. That makes sense. People were a lot more accepting of the idea of a replay. It would be... People have wondered, like, why don't we have replays over here? And it was simply because we don't have a strong enough reading culture. But they don't really have a lot of AP podcasts, mind you. They don't have a lot of those. But they have a shit ton of, like... Exactly. We have we have kind of the AP stuff, we've got the Critical Role stuff, we've kind of got stuff like that. They've got more of the books and scenarios and things like that. It's just kind of, again, that's going to be kind of one of those cultural things in the Japanese when I have the time to talk about. It's kind of the idea of like, hey, this is a very different trajectory of what they like, what they don't. Japanese people read more. This is not exactly a big brain thing. They read more than Americans. They read more than Europeans. Because that's just how they do things. I don't fucking know why. You could say it's a culture of reading. You could say it's just because, you can't really, trains are used more. Hell, that was actually a theory. But that's also why you get things like China kind of hopping on a very certain kind of Call of Cthulhu as well. Vietnam doesn't really have a very strong scene. Malaysia doesn't really have a strong scene. Literally no other country, bar Korea. Korea's got a decent scene, but not a great one. It's very hipster and very... The thing with Korean RPG scene that's a little bit weird is that it's almost entirely supported by expats. Way more than anywhere else. It's very expat oriented. And the expats like playing it, and the Korean games that are made by Koreans are usually very weird. If you have more followers than the biggest Indian D&D channel. Yes. There was the one. I wonder if I can find the guys again, because I found them very fascinating. It was no, not you. Where are you? The Dice Times? No, it wasn't Dice Time. Where are you? I believe they were Malaysian. That's a great start. Total Drama Island tabletop role-playing game adventure. I want to kill myself. Wow! I hate everything that you've just proposed. I'm gonna kill you. But, where was it? It was... I believe they were Malaysian. I want to say they were, like, Malaysian. I remember this distinctly. It was like it was very bizarre when I found it. That was the thing I remember very distinctly. It was incredibly strange when I found it. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Freaking fuck. I'll have to find it. If I can find them again, I will try to. because I believe they were Malaysian. That was the thing. If I recall correctly, they were Malaysian. I don't know. Some of you may remember this when I accidentally just found these fucking guys. Dungeon Desi. Yeah. It's I can't find it. I'll hunt them down, because I distinctly remember they were this like Malaysian group that would play like literally anything, and it would be 5e. Because yes, they played fucking The Last of Us TRPG, a quote Last of Us TRPG, as legitimately they played it with fucking 5e, and it was like so bizarre watching it. I'm like, what in the fuck am I watching? Was it Thai? No, we're not. Absolutely, like, absolutely not. Thailand and RPGs. Yeah, there's a few. Let's see. Why D&D is absolutely, let me see, is it Thailand, Thai, Last of No, this is, I'm not finding anything. It's going to bother me now, by the way. It's going to extremely bother me until I find it. Wow. But yeah. But yeah, no, it's, I remember distinctly there was a few weird ones. If I find it, I will post it immediately. But yeah, there is scenes, but they're a lot harder to find. And the thing is, I always find it interesting anytime someone says D&D is the biggest thing there. I'm like, is it really the biggest thing? Or is it because there is legitimately nothing else and there's like 5 people who care? Like with India, for example, that's probably going to be one of the ideas I'm going to have to kind of like put down, is the idea of like, if you were to put the idea of you know, of a tabletop role-playing game in India, what would happen? And I legitimately do not know. And I would do like, here's my thoughts of like what Indian culture, what Indian ideas would do for things. Because again, Japanese RPGs happen because of Japanese culture. Japanese culture is very fast. It is very space oriented. You don't have a lot of space, so you go somewhere else to have fun. That's a big idea. You don't go to someone's house to play D&D, you know, your tabletop games. You go to a karaoke bar. You go to a library room. You rent it. So you can't, like, you don't want to have a game that's going to go for 4 hours, because that's 4 hours that you have to pay for. So it's like, okay, we're going to do this for 2 hours. And that's how all games starting to get built, is for these very fast 2-hour games, or you can play them online. I'm convinced that the number of people in India that care about tabletop games beyond snakes and ladders and chess is the triple digits. Yeah. Well, pretty much. I wouldn't be surprised. Because I think one of the things is, and this is gonna be kind of like one of the first things I have to bring up in this kind of that video of like different culture games. I think a lot of people, when you say tabletop role-playing game, you want to know what they see. You really want to know what they see. They see this. They see this. They're seeing Dungeons and Dragons. They're seeing dragons. They're seeing elves and knights, and they're seeing slaying monsters and shit like that. They see that, and you know, this is kind of it's kind of tired to say of like, oh, it's Western fantasy or whatever, you know. It's Western fantasy, or whatever like that. You know, knights and dragons and shit like that. But it is. It legitimately is. And to a lot of people, that's like, I'm just not interested in this. This does not activate anyone's almonds because it's not my thing. And like Japan was a little bit different because they really like they really like that fantasy angle. But if you really look at things like Sword World, for example, Sword World very much made it its own thing. Hell, Snakes and Ladder was built to teach children just by sheer, as for my money, I suspect India would be big on Bollywood bullshit and very luck-based. The idea of success based on karma is very big there. Because like the weird thing with India, because you got to remember with India is actually I'll keep on my point. I'll talk about India. The idea is that people see things and it's not necessarily, hey, I'm not represented by this because they don't look like me. No, that's never the case. This doesn't interest me because there is no emotional connection to it. There is no connection for me saying that's like me. That's something I enjoy. Because again, it's kind of the idea of, like, in Japan, again, Japanese RPGs, one of the reasons it took, like, Call of Cthulhu took off as well as it did was for two reasons. The first big reason was because it was actually translated well. Yeah, it was translated well, and people could read it well, and it was a good read. The second big thing was that it said, hey, set it in where you are. It's a lot easier to say, hey, we have some spooky cosmic horror bullshit happening down in Shibuya than it is saying there's some cosmic horror bullshit happening in fucking Texarkana. It's a lot easier to slot Call of Cthulhu stuff into Japan because they already have yokai stuff there, and you can very easily morph that into it. You can kind of morph things together, and it's like, oh, it's horror. Well, we already have like an extensive horror kind of like culture with things, like there's there's scary stories just as much as there's horror media, there's horror movies, there's horror books. We already have that kind of connection with things, and it's easier for us to kind of leap into. D&D took off as well as it did because of the replays, and because they made a Japanese version of it specifically to appeal to people who really liked that. They appealed to nerds, but because wizardry was popular. Japanese people fucking loved wizardry. They loved RPGs like that. They loved the fantasy RPGs because they were there. They were something they could understand. But you go to something like India, for example. I'll use India. India doesn't have that necessarily. Why would they? They don't really have that like extensive connection to what we would call Western fantasy. They don't really have that. They don't really care that much about it. Not their thing. It's like how in China there is a wuxia RPG. There's based off a wuxia show because they looked at it and being like, this is immediately the shit I want to talk about. I want to talk about wuxia shit, and I'm going to write a game about wuxia shit because that's my thing. Because I like it. But in China, women play TRPGs. Women play them. Not men. Women play TTRPGs. And men play board games. God damn it, you're going to enjoy your Euro jank, and you're going to enjoy, and you're going to like it. And that's kind of the idea with like India, is that it would need to be, generally speaking, in like the Indian, you would need to have an Indian person creating an Indian game to appeal to Indian audiences. This is kind of a weird thing to say, be like, no shit. But you would need to have things that could, like, you can very easily kind of key into. Like, you joke about Bollywood and things like that, but unironically, Bollywood would be a really good idea to be like, we're gonna base things off of that. If you really want something that everyone could probably get behind, it would be Sholay. Sholay would probably very easily be one that you could tap into. just kind of this Indiana Jones adventure story. You know, everything is, it's a very upbeat, very, very exciting, very karma based. That shit would sell like hotcakes. But there's also one thing that, as Americans, we've, you know, kind of Western people, you're gonna play Catan now and enjoy it. Have a campaign if half the party are busy starting a live leak videos at the steel mill. Hey, live leak is gone. We can't do that anymore. But yeah, CanCon is actually very big. But like, you get things like Cholet, so you need something there. But the thing is, like, people tend to forget with India. India's fucking huge. India is massive. India is completely gigantic. And southern India is very different than northern India, than western India, than eastern India. Every kind of state you see here, yeah, you kind of see on this little map here, all of those states are very different culturally. They have very different ideas, very different concepts. You would need to find something that would probably appeal to the Delhi, you know, kind of that Delhi, that more urbanite audience. Because the guys in the countryside really don't give a shit. Like, they don't care. Like, they probably won't because they just can't afford to do stuff like that. Or you appeal to a game that is going to... This is the thing. You make a game that is going to appeal to them because it's a lot easier to pick up and play. That's a big thing. Because then you get things like, how would you make a Mongolia RPG? How would you make a Mongolia TRPG? I can guarantee you one thing. Nothing that is coming out now would ever appeal to Mongolians. You want to know why it would never appeal to fucking Mongolians? Because they have got no goddamn connection to any of that shit. They don't care. Oh boy, it's D&D. Woo! D&D in time. No, they're not going to connect to that as much. But if you make a game that's all about traveling is a big thing in Mongolia, fun fact, then it's going to spread a little bit more. You have to find something that they can attach to. Doesn't necessarily like, oh, a Mongolian game must be Mongolian, or, you know, no, it has to be about Mongolia or I'm not going to like it. It just has to be something with that they understand and that they can interact with. If you're traveling around, you know, can't you just make a game about Genghis Khan? Because that's the thing, that's not what you're trying to do at the end of the day. What you're trying to do is find something that they want to engage with. Because ultimately, that's the main thing. Because, well, it's one of those things where you end up with, like... That's one of the things where you end up with, like, Poland, for example. Hello, Poland. Why in God's holy name does Poland love Warhammer Fantasy, but they never play it correctly? Polish people do not play Warhammer Fantasy right. They don't. They play it as a mudcore nightmare simulator where no one has fun. Because the Polish fucking love that shit. They love, and they LARP, yeah. They love grit, they love mud, they love blood and shit. They like things being incredibly low fantasy. That's something they attach to. That's something when the Warhammer Fantasy roleplay first came out, they cling to that and they're like, well, this isn't low enough fantasy. So Polish RPGs came out, not many of them anymore. I know they were out there, but when those came out, wow, it turns out they're being focused around mud, blood, and nightmares. Wow. Wowie zowie, everybody. It's insane. I would have never guessed that people who like something are going to make things that they enjoy. Because the thing is, once you've established the core thing, you can then run counterculture. That's important because you can see it even now in our sphere, in good old in the Western sphere. D&D was incredibly popular. D&D is incredibly popular. 3.5, you've got 4th edition, and all these things. But when did the Forge really take off? When did the Forge or any of those games really take off? Right during the 2008, 2009, about 2012, about around 2009 to about 2012 that they really took off. The modern indie scene, PBTA, Dogs in the Vineyard, any of that shit, is linked to a very particular time from around 2009 to about 2013. And guess what was happening in 2009 to 2013? 4th edition. People were not liking 4th edition. There was some clear problems. There were some clear issues. We have the established thing, but now we can run counterculture to it. 3.5 is showing its age. People don't like 3.5, but people are kind of sick of that shit. But, 4th edition clearly isn't delivering. Hey, everyone, we can run counterculture. We can do things that are very different. That's the core thing, though. You cannot have counterculture, however, unless you have culture. And if you just don't have a TRPG culture, you're not going to get anything. You're not going to get those things that counter it. You're not going to have different people saying, I want to do something different, if you don't have something immediate. So that's why I say, like, if you want to make a Indian RPG, you need to make a Cholet RPG. You need to make something that they can immediately click onto and say, this appeals to me, and this appeals to my, the way I want to do things. Honest to God, if you want to make a good Indian RPG, I would recommend it that you don't need dice, or you can do it on your phone, because a lot of people have phones. You're doing things online, you're doing things like that because we don't want to meet up today because it sucks outside, but we have a lot of internet access, things like that. There's a lot of little things to consider there. So that's the premise of that video. That's my idea for it. It's going to be great. Probably maybe next week, maybe the week after that. Kind of depends on how where I'm at caps. But yeah, that's that. I'm gonna call it there because I've got a video to do tomorrow. Wednesday's video is going to be on Enforcer. It's going to be a little different than I usually do because Enforcer is technically a skirmish game, but not. It's a little bit weird to talk about, but I'll do my best. If we get lucky and if the video is not very long and I get through it pretty consistently, most likely I might do a stream. I might not. I might pop into the Discord though and just do character sheets, and we will just go down the list making character sheets. You all get to watch me suffer as I make character sheets because God is dead and I cannot have nice things. So, thank you all for watching. Godspeed, good luck. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. I will see you all maybe tomorrow, maybe on Wednesday, where we will begin working on caps. So, Godspeed, luck.